mid-range or even an early game team comp. You're not going to outmuscle the Tigers mechanically early on, and you can't expect to have a way to stay stable at least with a mid-range comp against them. So just go back to your tried and true guns of late game team comps.
Pick for the late game, but you have to make it there, and that seemed to be the struggle for the Jin Air Green Wings. Have to be able to get out of lane without those big deficits that you started to see develop. Karma ban to start by the Jin Air Green Wings as they do have that first ban out, and a Nami coming in from the Tigers.
Yeah, so 2 supports banned away. Now, I don't really think that Karma posed too much of a threat last game, but it is one of the better supports that exist right now. Olaf being hovered, and it might be banned away, and it's always a tragedy.
Well, in general,
for me anyway, when Olaf is forcefully banned, especially because Peanut is a jungler that he doesn't need Olaf. He can play Lee, can play Elise, can play Nidalee, and given that you're blue side, you might be, well, okay, well, when you have to hover a Nidalee ban as well, that's a little bit problematic.
Now, what is also problematic is that there's only 1 ban left, so there's lots of things available. I think Syndra really comes to mind as a champion that we've seen banned almost just as much as Nidalee, but with the Tigers having to think about it, see what this final ban of theirs is. We look to transition into the picks. It looks like it's going to be a Jace. So it's interesting, leaving Syndra open. We saw that a lot yesterday in our Samsung series. It's interesting to see how they decide to counter that. Yeah,
so Syndra being left open. Now, Cry is one of those players that certainly can play her. The Zilean hover maybe is a reminder that if you do pick Syndra, we will pick Zilean. But while Zilean does fare probably a little bit better against Syndra than some of the other mids in the meta, there definitely is ways to work around that.
Well, talking about hovering that, maybe to send a message, say, hey, hold off on just insta-locking the Syndra. We've got other things in mind. A few of those other things, with the Zyra being locked in, could come in the form of that direct counter to Zyra. I misattributed it earlier on to Wolf. It was actually Gorilla that pulled out the misfortune. And there is Smeb hovering it over. It would be a treat to see Gorilla pull out a pick that he is so iconically attached to.
Yep, and the MF coming out against Zyra, but it will be lacking the Ashe component, and that can be a little bit dangerous because generally when you think of MF, you think of her paired with Ashe, not think of her as a standalone. And so this might still not be a Misfortune support. Could actually certainly be a Misfortune AD carry.
And we have actually seen Misfortune AD carry in day 1 of the tournament, if I'm not mistaken, so it's not necessarily guaranteed, like you mentioned. Would be interesting to see that, since, like Varus, we don't traditionally think of it in that role, but more picks to come out here, this time from the Jin Air Green Wings. We've already seen what they can do with that Jin Victor combo. Jin, once again, left open as a big comfort pick for Teddy. Wouldn't be surprised to see him just drop right back on there with a Victor in the mid lane for Kuzan, which was their strategy earlier on in the round of 12.
Yeah, and right now with the Varus hover, might be looking to maybe have a Varus Zyra bottom lane. That would be pretty obnoxious in terms of poke and struggles. But I'm not quite sure if Teddy actually would be super comfortable on that Varus pick. And with Jin having been up so long into this draft, and Teddy not selecting it, you really have to wonder what his mental state might be right now.
Very true, especially since we haven't actually seen Teddy on any other champion, so kind of unproven in that regard. Now, you saw Cry actually hover Riven for a second. Now, I wonder if that's maybe the throwing the gauntlet down to a guy like Sohwan, who was always very well known for being a Riven main, even just in solo queue before he started his competitive career. And he actually did get a chance to play that a few seasons ago. I believe he played it at IEM, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, I'd be excited to see that, because we haven't seen either team commit to top laners just yet, aside from the Rumble that Cry just locked in for Smith.
Yep, and right at the very end here, we have the Echo, and now, I mean, we're still gonna probably see what is gonna be the final pick for the Tigers, because it does look like that Misfortune will be a support, which means that Cry does get the counter pick in mid lane.
So we'll see what they decide to go for with the counter pick. The last two champions for Jin Air Green Wings will be Echo, most likely there for the top lane, going up against Rumble. So we're not going to see that Rumble into Poppy pick, even though Poppy is still available and incredibly strong. But is that a better matchup for Sohwan this time around?
Well, for Sohwan, I mean, Echo into Rumble, it's still a little bit of a skill matchup, but if Echo gets any sort of a lead, then it's very easy to suffocate his opponent from coming back.
And there's the Syndra lock-in. In a world where Syndra has almost been immediately picked or immediately banned, it's made it to the final pick here for what could be our final game of the night as the Tigers lock it in for Cry.
And with that Syndra pick being selected, I feel like Cry might just have his way with Kuzan in the mid lane. We saw him almost get the solo kill off in game number 1. And Syndra, when you look at this Jin Air team composition, Syndra is going to be able to one-combo 4 of the targets on Jin Air Green Wings once she hits a certain point. And that's just something that's extremely scary anytime Cry is going to have his flash up.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our champion picks and bans for game number 2. The Jin Air Green Wings have to change it up here because Tigers, once again, 1 win away, punching their trip to Busan to play against a team that we saw earlier on, SK Telecom T1. So even if Jin Air Green Wings are able to pull it back in the next 2 sets, that's what's ahead of them as well. So who will make it there? Jin Air drafting very, very differently. We'll get a chance to see a few different things out of both teams. So we come in here to game number 2. Here we have the lineup for our Jin Air Green Wings. Sohwan winged Kuzan Teddy on his first performance on something other than Jin. Of course, Shade down there to support him and their opponents. The ROX Tigers, Smeb, Peanut, Cry, Prey, and Gorilla on his signature Misfortune, there to round out their lineup. So get out there on Twitter, hashtag KeSPA Cup to let everyone know what you're watching, or show the teams who you're supporting by hashtag JAG win or ROX win. Let them know as we get into game number 2.
There's a burning friction that fuses fire. Tip on the gasoline, and the flames get higher. There's no compromise, no second prize. It's
Okay, I was worried that if the Jin Air cheer was that much louder this time around, we'd be having some hearing issues. Tons of fans filling the Nexon Arena as we get into our second game of the series. Now, I'm unable to see from items, at least, whether or not either of these supports have underbought. It looks like both of them do actually have all 3 biscuits in their inventory, so no early pink wards off of this early harass going to be coming in, but it's going to be interesting to see this Misfortune. Now, you got a chance while you were at Worlds LS to see this really debuted, so how is this in what is kind of a different matchup between these two going to fare?
Well, I mean, Misfortune is regarded as the Zyra counter, but this is going to be the first time that we've actually seen Zyra Varus, which to me that sounds like a very dangerous duo. If Zyra ever lands the snare on either target of Gorilla or Prey, it's a lot of damage that can just get deleted from that champion.
Yeah, definitely going to have to watch out for that. A lot more on the line. And of course, for the Tigers, you mentioned that maybe Cry's Syndra later on will be able to just absolutely tear them apart. But is there anything really that strikes you as a vulnerability to the Tigers composition that Jin Air might have in their advantage?
Well, Jin Air's team composition, one of the things that they do have is if they can draw the game out long enough, there's not a very reliable way to sustain against Teddy's poke as the game draws longer and longer. In addition to that, Echo, once she also hits a certain point, it's going to be way too difficult for Smeb to actually match him in the split push.
We've all seen what that tank Echo can do, and this might be one of the last opportunities we get a chance to see that tank Echo as it has been sufficiently changed. So Gonna get it while we can. Teddy and Shay walking forward. Level 2s have yet to be hit, and there it is, popping first for the Chin Air Green Wings. They do get that big poke onto Prey. Teddy is starting to assert his aggression.
Yeah, that was a little interesting by Prey right there. You saw that he went for the Dancing Grenade after having immediately shot his crit. So a little bit of micro error down there in bottom lane, and so far Chin Air Green Wings capitalizing on it and managing to find themselves the lead.
Through the jungle route, we haven't actually talked about that this time around, but it was once again a red side lead start this time for Peanut to wind up at the blue buff and most likely hand that over to Cry on the other side for Winged. What strikes you about the initial trips to the jungle for both of these players?
Well, as we can see, Peanut completing his blue buff right now, not actually giving that over to Cry.
Okay.
Oh no.
Wings right here. The smite is not actually used. Wing did not have it up. And for Peanut, he didn't actually either. So I didn't check that neither one of them were able to guarantee the secure. But in the end, all is right with the world as Peanut picks it up.
Yep. He did manage to get one of the mini golems, though, away from Peanut. So not a complete loss by Winged, but unfortunately, due to how his bottom lane is playing, and it's not that it's necessarily bad, but he can't find anything down there at least. And so now him being at Wraith is actually really good because it's very likely that Peanut could show in mid lane, and he would be right there to stop that game in its tracks.
Both mid laners actually playing that very aggressively. Both of their junglers waiting in the wings to see if they can make anything happen there. In the meantime, Teddy in the bottom lane has actually been putting out a lot of pressure, and kind of impressive to see him playing a champion that is very different. Teleport back into lane, and here's that gank you were mentioning in our last series. Peanut coming in to try to pressure, no cocoon to land there by Wingdu. Shot it a little early.
Well, that was a little interesting to me because I feel like Winged could have flashed with the red buff active onto Cry, auto-attack him a few times, and that would force him to also flash away, thus handing over the advantage to Kuzan, who then at any point could throw the claw as a feign maneuver to make Cry just scared during the laning phase while his flash would be down.
Absolutely. Very, very vulnerable, especially when it comes to getting locked down. Syndra, not the most mobile champion when it comes to getting away, especially without that flash, which Wing did not elect to go for the guarantee on burning that down. So we'll see if Teddy can hit this, and he does not. Instead, he'll get locked down and take more damage in return. So that time, he holds it and does not land the hit.
Yeah, and one of the big problems for this is you notice that Prey and Gorilla are trying very hard to keep Teddy in the lane. Well, looks like they might have just given up on it right now. Gorilla a little too late to fire that. And hit Shay. Had they stopped it, it delays the tier of Varus, and that's actually extremely big.
Not in the lane to stack that one up, and he will have that at a decent timing, so at least that facet of his build will not be delayed. Are there any other big spikes that we're looking to see here? Anybody other early game item breakpoints?
No, not really. I mean, it's just going to come down to Cry in that mid lane. Syndra's lethal once she has the Lost Chapter, double Amp Tome, and Sork Pen Boots. Almost completely deletes most of the mid lane meta champions in one combo, even when they're at around 750, 800 HP.
Very, very scary, certainly. And of course, mid laners starting to hit 6. Kuzan there first, and Cry about to reach it. So definitely something to keep an eye on as we get more and more aggressive. Now, Sohan taking a few rough trades, but does have that the extra sustain from that corrupting potion that he's really leveraging in that lane matchup against Smeb. So I feel like we're sort of building up and just waiting for that moment where things are going to explode, but with neither jungler really able to make much happen and the lanes going fairly evenly on both sides, we really don't see those big deficits that happened in game number 1 starting to transpire.
Yeah, we're not seeing any of the deficits at all. And Cry actually falling behind of Kuzan in this laning phase, just in terms of CS. A lot of pressure up right now. Cute little maneuver to get all that CS right at the very end. And Wing showing himself in mid lane, I feel is a bit unnecessary because that gives away a lot of information about what his route could be. If Peanut or any member of ROX actually managed to click on him and he has any buffs active, it's also going to give away what camps are remaining or what have been cleared on the right side of the map.
Well, we've seen mid lane hit level 6. We're about to see bottom lane do that as well. Teddy and Prey. Do they have what it takes to kill the other? About to find out. This is actually really, really tense as now the aggression's turned on from Prey and Gorilla. Both lots of poke. Missed there that time around, but things have been, it's been another somewhat delayed start to things so far, but as the trades continue, as this is much more even game, is that better for Generic Green Wings, or does it give to ROX time to set up?
Certainly, it's a lot better for Generic Green Wings. The closer that they can actually keep the game, the more beneficial it is for them, because of those things that we talked about earlier on, where eventually it's going to reach a point where Smeb is not able to respond to Sovan's split push, and Teddy is going to be an absolute monster, and ROX Tigers are not going to have a proper response to it if Jin Ultimate and Misfortune Ultimate are on cooldown.
Gotta keep an eye on that. As they do scale up, Jin Air, of course, content to take this as late as possible. Now Shay narrowly dodging that, but in a little bit of a rough spot. Gorilla does get locked up, but here comes Peanut immediately with the assassination onto K. Jay gets the kick back and on a wing to Teddy. Walks back between a literal rock and a hard place. Peanut goes back in, but takes the cocoon. He's going to try to safeguard and flash his way to safety, and he will be able to just narrowly get out alive. Cry there to pinball him down with 4 coming his way for the kill, and it's 3 already. Kuzan might not be able to find anything here, and he will let Cry usher himself safely back to mid lane. Sights on Gorilla as the claw does come through, and there it is, the lockdown. A kill coming back for the Jin Air Green Wings, but certainly a great maneuver by the Tigers.
Yep, Kuzan managing to at least pick up 1 kill, and he was also rewarded with a summoner spell as uncharacteristically Gorilla pulled the trigger. So here in this replay, Prey definitely wanted to lock up Che. That would have resulted in Che's death way sooner. Fortunately, though, Peanut able to find his way in. Teddy flashing away, but didn't matter. Prey had 1 extra bullet for him. And then this spider went up the water spout, but fortunately, this Atlantean Syndra had a little bit more water than he was expecting, as they were able to pick up the kill there.
I've never understood that nursery rhyme or the metaphor it's trying to accomplish. But back down to the bottom lane, can't dodge the Peanut. Which is not a sentence I ever thought I would say, as Peanut returns to the bottom lane to pick up the 4th kill for the Tigers.
Yep, and this is the things that Jin Air Green Wings does not want happening to them right now. ROX Tigers' team composition are very acceleration-based. If they manage to get advantages, they can really drive those advantages home, and it's going to be increasingly more difficult to sustain and survive against them. And here, Blue Buff going to be handed away to Cry, and as he makes his way back to the mid lane, he basically has those items where Kuzan has to be extremely careful now against a full combo from Syndra.
Oh gosh, here we go. Winged this time, the recipient of the curtain call. Repels to try to wait out more of it, but they know exactly where he's going to come down. Into the Misfortune hold. Swing. Mata. Prey able to land the last hit. And I don't care what water spout Winged is on. There's no spout anymore. He just blew the whole thing away.
Yeah, that was actually just really impressive team coordination by the ROX Tigers, and everything is going wrong right now for Jin Air Green Wings on the bottom half of the map. Meanwhile, though, up in top lane, they are on a bit of an island. Managed to pick up a Water Drake. Kuzan misreading, I think, how Peanut was going to choose to get out of the Dragon Pit.
It felt like they felt like he was trapped in there. I'm like, well, no, it's Lee Sin. He can just safeguard over the wall. Let's watch Wing to get caught out once again.
Yeah, so the curtain call comes up to enable the slows, and Gorilla just there for added support and a little bit of damage. Finally channels the bullet time as Peanut kicked them right into the finale.
3 ults to take down the Jin Air jungler, but a dragon taken off of it. And it is an Ocean Drake, so nothing super crazy like Inferno or Mountain, but still good for this early game sustain.
Yeah, and I mean, even in this team composition, Cloud wouldn't be that bad this early on, but definitely Water, the worst of all of the Drakes that ROX Tigers could have taken at this point in the game, but it's not their decision. So
well, it also, as the game gets later on, will help them sustain through things like Kuzan or Teddy's poke, if that does get to a pretty crazy level. So could benefit them a lot, but as things start to get pretty crazy or pretty scary down here, is Prey 3-0. Youmuu's completed against a Varus who has Tear of the Goddess and 3 long swords. So an interesting build versus a very strong one. Tiger's certainly in the lead there.
And right now, I mean, we still haven't gotten to see a real full-on team fight, but when that time does come, you can already see that the two carries of the Tigers, Syndra and Jhin, both very big right now.
Oh man, going for the and one. Damage on the Prey is enough to force out the heal, but can they turn anything right back around? Nice splits around this, and Wing there to force a flash out from Gorilla. Okay, saves Teddy's life as well, and Ultimate's being traded. No casualties either, but a Summoner spell taken away from Gorilla and Prey.
Yeah, and Gorilla having to blow his flash there to manage to live Prey, and Gorilla definitely want to stay in this lane apparently, as Wing looks to take his red buff, but it's going to come at the cost of losing his entire left side jungle. And so now, when it becomes obvious to the Tigers, okay, he just came bottom, but he didn't have red buff, so it tells them exactly where Winged is right now. It basically telegraphs his route, what he's capable of, and so Peanut knows, I can move into the left side jungle, counter jungle everything away from you, and then look to make a play top lane, because we know that Wing can't respond to this.
Peanut safeguarding around the corner as he comes. Sohan running on an equalizer, trying to get away, will most likely be safe and sound. A little bit of a merry-go-round up in the top half of the map. Smeb actually going the distance for it, denying extra CS a turret, and now farming between them.
Yeah, and the reasoning that Peanut and Smeb were doing that just now is because Sohan doesn't have his teleport up, so they know that by running him backwards as much as they can, while also simultaneously essentially proxying the wave, it can cause a lot bigger problems for him, as he might have ended up losing the entire wave. But Sohan taking the super long route around did actually manage to come back up to top and not miss the wave.
Oh, Cocoon on to Gorilla, who didn't expect to see a spider there. Last hit from Kuzan to secure the takedown, and that'll be a kill coming the way of Jhin Air's mid.
Yeah, and that's definitely a very nice pickup for them right now. Both of the kills for Jhin Air Green Wings have actually been onto Gorilla this game. And bottom lane looking like it might actually fall unless ROX devotes some defense and attention to it.
Oh, there's the damage coming his way. Prey out of there. And now, okay, Kuzan, I thought was going to commit to that. But in the end, like you mentioned, Jhin Air find the first tower kill. So they will get that bonus extra gold. And that's actually going to be a pretty big takedown on Prey, who had most of the team's kills for the Tigers.
Yeah, and now the gold score pretty much even as we move into the mid stage of the game. And we're going to take a quick replay of that. As you can see here, Teddy landing that Varus ultimate, thought by many to actually be one of the most difficult skill shots in the game to land. And Prey eating that up, going down to the turret, no support nearby as Gorilla had just died a minute prior, not on his way back to the lane yet. And Kuzan unable to take that call.
Really impressed by Teddy to show not only his comfort on a very meta champion like Jhin, but also to switch it up and perform very admirably on Varus, one that we don't get a chance to see that often. Now, no dragon here as Jhin Air clear out the river to get that vision in their favor. But now that this bottom turret has finally gone down, what's the next rotation here for the Jhin Air Green Wings?
Well, Jhin Air at this point of the game, all they need to really do is continue to stabilize. I feel like the next big fight is for them to constrict the vision around the Dragon Pit and not enable the Tigers to actually touch the river. And if they can do that and secure the Dragon, it'll be pretty good for them.
Okay, well, no blue buff steal that time around. Or did he? I didn't actually catch who got it in the end. In the end, Kuzan able to ult himself to stay alive for a little bit longer. Kicked away, and there is actually a flash to keep him alive. Equalizer comes down to continue to find the kill, but they won't. And in the end, no one dead just yet. Wing, though, vulnerable. Exhaust onto Smeb. He's going to get taken out by Teddy, who will turn another Chains of Corruption onto Cry. He'll cleanse, but it's not going to keep him alive much longer. And it's going to be a 2-for-1 so far. Prey, a little bit of a rough spot, but who gets the kill? That was mean. Bullying Prey to his death, and he will fall.
Yep, and that fight was just a little bit of mechanical errors by the ROX Tigers, and Jhin Air punishing them for it. And they might be rewarded here with the Tier 1 turret. I think it's a little bit unlikely that they get the Tier 2. But they might actually press onto it, given that ROX don't have any teleports up, but only 3 spellcaster minions remaining, so not enough time to really inflict a lot of damage. So we can see here that Prey casting the Curtain Call, getting a lot of damage down onto Kuzan, but Peanut not able to find the execute onto Kuzan, and neither could Smeb with that equalizer. And when Smeb runs around like this, he can't really run any more up towards mid lane because then Sohan would cut him off and kill him. Cry actually missed the stun with his Syndra orbs, and that was pretty problematic. And Prey having to flash in to finish off one of the kills was really unfortunate because it ended up resulting in his death too.
Yeah, kind of uncharacteristic. I feel like trying to invest so much to get that initial kill. Tigers wasted things like the equalizer that could have been placed in that narrow choke point. So Dragon coming the way this time of Jin Air. Wing trying to escape, will repel to dodge the Misfortune ult, but comes right back down to his untimely demise and is picked off by the Tigers. Now Kuzan safe at the turret as the Tigers look for more. Meanwhile, top lane, Sohan's just continuing to push the turret.
Yep. And ROX Tigers just getting the red buff away. Not going to be so big of a victory, at least not when you factor in it comes to the cost of your top lane tier 1 outer turret, but they will secure the bottom tier 1 turret, and that'll be their first tower of the game. And so now, I mean, at this point, when everyone recalls and all things are said and done, we can look to see the Tigers rotate towards mid lane, while keeping Smeb up there in the top lane. And with Jin in the mid lane, it becomes a real threat as they try to maybe attempt to raise the top tier 1 turret.
Well, top tier 1 has gone down already. And for the Tigers, having yet to really find much of an objective foothold for themselves. They were able to take that one in the bottom lane, but what's their next move? A little bit of a struggle in these last few team fights, and with the Ocean Drakes equalized, what's really impressed you since we saw that initial explosion for the Tigers in the bottom lane?
Well, I mean, Winged early on was basically doing his best KT Steel cosplay, constantly getting caught out and dying. But since then, Jin Air Green Wings have actually recovered fairly well, and this is a situation that the Tigers don't actually want to be in. Now, they still have the luxury inside of the Syndra pick that it can just delete players from the game and hold that.
There's the attempted deletion onto Che, who will flash away to safety. Winged in a little bit of a rough spot too, but he finds the escape. Peanut doing the utmost, going the distance, and he will find that kill onto the Jin Air support. But now, in a little bit of a rough spot of his own, can he escape? The answer, no. Sohan there to take him out.
And Peanut going down there in exchange for Che is a little bit problematic because outside of the equalizer, they don't have a reliable way into Jin Air Green Wings if they want to start a team fight.
Wing going over the wall there. Smeb getting greedy for just the Raptors. Going to get locked down there by Alessandro ultimate. Trying to find his way away. Somebody heal to keep him alive for a little bit longer. Sohan flashing in, but won't find anything further. Big poke damage onto the Tigers as they disengage around this Dragon. And here comes Teddy looking for a snipe, and he finds Cry, taking him out, and now potentially more. Sohan having to ult himself back defensively. Here comes Teddy for another one! He's gonna hit two. Smeb, you're next in the sights. Teddy, though, does have to watch out. He is mortal. Misses that snipe, and will leave Smeb for Sohan. 3 big picks, and now more potentially to come. Prey gonna get locked down, and Teddy with his third.
And that was an immaculate punish by Jin Air Green Wings, all stemming from Peanut deciding that he wanted to try to execute Che. And, okay, well, he does kill Wing.
Peanut going for the style points this game, and he will find yet another kill, but now unable to jump over the wall. Feels like Lee Sin's always have one extra ward. Well, that's what it looks like when they don't.
Yeah, well, one of the problems is that Peanut is trying to be a little bit too stylish, and I feel like the kills that he's attempting to go for are not as effective as he thinks they might be. And so right here, this was already problematic when the Tigers begin to funnel into the red side jungle and try to make their way out through the back of Dragon. Because from this angle, it becomes too easy for Teddy with that Yumu's Ghostblade to catch up to the remaining members of the Tigers and just begin to pick them off with those piercing arrows. And from this point, I mean, I thought all of them were going to just go down to Teddy single-handedly. Prey tried to make a little bit of a last stand. They got his heal out of him, but then it was only a moment of time until Smeb would go down too.
That was the Teddy show, just sniping one after another. A really incredible performance there. Teleport canceled by Kuzan. He was trying to catch out Prey, pushing him back and not taking his flash or anything else aside from that. So no teleport from Kuzan, and now Jin Air Green Wings back in the driver's seat around Baron.
I don't know if Kuzan waited until the very last second to cancel that, because I saw a ping go down on the brush. So they might think that Kuzan was in the brush, and that's why Prey walked away. And that would be actually a very cute mind game into drawing or making the Tigers think that maybe Kuzan is not present at the Baron, which he was.
Oh, that's actually really cool. I didn't think about that because you can see the teleport being channeled, but because it's in the brush, you don't know whether it's completed or not.
Right.
Interesting. Well, either way, nothing coming of it as Jin Air did not decide to start the Baron. It has been cleared of all ROX Tigers wards, but as the poke continues, this is what you talked about. If the game gets late enough, dealing with all of this poke is going to be difficult for the Tigers to sustain.
Yeah, and it's all on Peanut, and without Flash right now, it becomes increasingly more difficult for him to find a way in, and really,
Peanut.
the target is Teddy. He needs to kick Teddy into his team.
Poke on this top turret as Kuzan continues. Spider in at the side, will scout out Peanut with a curtain call coming down. See what Peanut can find. Kicking winged right back into the Tigers team. He's gonna flash away to safety, and with a miss from Prey, it's okay. Gorilla there to finish it off. In the meantime, Kuzan should be able to take this top lane second tier for free. Who comes out ahead in that trade?
Well, it's kind of hard to say because I guess it's not totally over.
Okay, well, Prey does get locked down by a very long CC. It's parallel convergence, converging right on top of him and Peanut, taking them both down.
Yeah. And at this point, you're starting to see a lot of the weaknesses of the ROX Tigers team composition come to light, where if they fail to secure those advantages and maintain them in the early into mid-game transition, then they begin to fall to the poke from Varus and the dual split push that double teleport offers from Echo and Lissandra.
Wow. Really stepping up, an impressive performance from guys like Teddy to not only improve his positioning, but find these snipes, and talking about how close that is.
The absence of the equalizer right now makes it very easy for them to actually go on to Baron. Here in this replay, what I was talking about was that the fight wasn't over yet, and you can see that it's very easy for the Jin Air Green Wings to finalize and secure kills on this ROX Tigers composition if they're missing their tools of engagement and summoners.
Now going for Baron, doesn't look like there's any steal potential. Peanut there too late, and it's taken by Jin Air.
And that actually all stems from Smeb having used the equalizer to kill the minion wave in front of the mid-tier 2 turret. And just like that, I mean, Jin Air Green Wings responds perfectly with the punish by capturing Baron.
So Baron buff now on Jin Air. Now no Elder Dragons for a while, so at least we get a chance to see the game continue instead of just rotating from one very strong buff to another. 25-minute Baron here for Jin Air for the next 2.5 minutes. Is this something that they're going to be using aggressively, or just saying, okay, well, let's just stabilize from here on, because it looks pretty darn stable to me.
Yeah, it does look pretty stable indeed, and with Baron and even a second Water Dragon. Now see, this one's going to be the one that is actually pretty crucial, because now the sustain is pretty decent. So now when they begin to siege the turrets, even if Smeb uses the equalizer to try to stall or slow down any sort of pushes or Misfortune ultimates or Jin ultimates, it's not really going to matter that much anymore, as Jin Air Green Wings are going to be there to stay with that kind of sustain.
There for a while. Now, Peanut's been the guy to maybe go in and style a little bit too heavily. So for now, pulling back a little bit and not being too over-aggressive. Is he the savior that needs to pull off that big... Oh my god, he's going for it! Right as I was talking about it, Peanut goes in and dies for free. And an attempt at it, but man, look at the punish for Prey, channeling his curtain call, but take the big arrow from Teddy in the meantime.
Yeah, and they don't have an answer to this Echo. And this is one of the big problems. Just watch as Sohan chunks Smeb and basically doesn't take too much damage, and that was through Smeb's shield, so can even get a little bit worse. And now 2 inhibitors are probably going to fall here.
Made one very low. There's the equalizer. Teddy walking on top of him, but has his Mob Malamortius pop. Smeb, in the meantime, pays for the equalizer by going down and being the first casualty of this fight. Now, Peanut about to respawn, and Tiger's able to usher Jin Air out. Winged, in the meantime, does get out because he's not quick enough to exit. But in the meantime, I guess Tigers at least save their inhibs for now.
Yep. And they've managed to save the inhibitors, but they are 10,000 gold down, and you can't really feel like this is going to be a very good spot for the ROX Tigers to come back from. And so you can see that this engagement was almost like a dream engagement. Now, yes, they did lose Smeb, but they managed to save both inhibitors. And it was mostly in part due to the equalizer that a lot of the members on Generic Green Wings were forced to retreat and concede position. And from there, they were able to at least get one kill onto Cry on that Syndra. But if you just look at the items down below, it basically tells the entire story where the ROX Tigers are struggling to get anything together, whereas Generic Green Wings, they look like a rich businessman.
They certainly do. Just gonna leave that. Either way, 10,000 gold lead. Jin Air rounding out their Baron buff and having not taken an inhibitor off of that, still things holding together. This is like that egg that you break, but then you do put it back together again, much to the delight of guys like Humpty Dumpty, but it's still kind of broken. You can see the fractures, these inhibitors barely holding on and the base holding together. But for how long as Jin Air once again look to push in? Their Baron buff is expired.
And this might potentially be the final siege unless Peanut can find a miracle kick onto Teddy.
Well, he tried to get one last time, but he went in and went down immediately. So this time we'll see the pressure continue and mount on these two inhibitors. Jin Air continuing to push on into the base, poking little by little. Where is the go button? Smeb looking for an equalizer opportunity. Inhibitors survive for now as Jin Air continue to siege.
And right now I feel like this is a little bit of a mistake by Generic Green Wings. There's no reason not to have Sohan up there in top lane, given that his teleport is up.
Continue to look forward. There's Kuzan, who's going to be the one to engage. Immediately blows Prey and Gorilla apart. Peanut the next to fall. Jin Air explode the Tigers immediately.
Yep, and that was just a little captured opportunity by the Generic Green Wings to punish the Tigers' mispositioning. And looks like this probably will be the final endgame siege. Equalizer comes down to stall as long as it can, but I still feel like the tower is certainly going down.
At least one of them falling. Minion wave in the mid lane just needs to be cleared up. Immediate cleanse from Cry after getting cocooned, so not going to be caught out at least by that. Next wave coming in. There's the flash, the exhaust onto Cry. He will be poked out and go down. It's Sohan to take him out. With more Tigers falling, this certainly looks like a rough decision for Jin Air, not deciding to press for the win, instead backing out and letting two waves of super creeps push in.
Yeah, and I mean, it's almost all but over. We have seen the ROX Tigers fight back from very bad situations before, but this one looks pretty irrecoverable as 12,000 gold lead, another dragon spawning in a minute and a half, as well as Baron. So both of those are probably likely to go over to Generic Green Wings, and we can just see this engage again. So Sohan finds an opportunity in on the back of Kuzan's ultimate, and then you can just see that Peanut over there on the left, unable to really do anything. Sohan couldn't find a kill there onto Smeb, Smeb being forced to flash away. Had he gone down there, the game certainly would have ended, but looks like for now, though, the Tigers just hang on by a thread, and Jin Air Green Wings probably going to wait for that final Baron, just be super safe to close out the game.
And Kuzan's damage to just explode the ROX duo lane, absolutely incredible. Blue buff actually given over this time to Teddy, so he does have all the mana he needs, along with those double Ocean Drakes to continue and sustain the poke in the last remaining lane. The Jin Air Green Wings have to push down. Now, defense here for Tigers, it does involve Peanut, who has been remarkably unsuccessful at finding any sort of comeback engage. Things like big insects, always available, but very difficult to pull off. Jin Air, very aware of what they have to avoid.
Yep, seems like Jin Air is completely cognizant of the only way for the Tigers to come back, and they are not letting that happen, at least thus far they haven't. And Peanut, it just feels like he's doing nothing since the early game, and in fact, even a lot of the reasons that the Tigers started getting into these spots was because of him.
He's gonna look for it, finds at least one Q to get in on, but won't take it just yet. He's gonna go for it. There's a big kick onto Teddy. He'll find it, but get locked up and taken down immediately. Curtain call to find something. Sohan very low. He will go down, so at least a 1-for-1 there. Is Peanut's life not in vain. Winged very low. Tigers not looking for too much more, but have to defend their base as the last remaining Nexus turret falls.
Yep, and that is going to trigger the Jin Air Green Wings to head straight on down to Baron. And after they take this, I mean, taking this this dragon or Baron and then the dragon and then marching straight onto the Tigers base is probably going to go completely uncontested.
I wonder if Gorilla is just going to walk in there and try to ult to disengage, and even just the presence of this ROX Tiger support enough to push Jin back.
Yeah, Misfortune ult does tend to do a lot of damage, and that's something they don't want to risk. The only way for the Tigers to come back into this game is actually via Baron itself, so definitely not wanting to get into a situation where they might give it up. And in this replay here, you can see that that was probably the best opportunity that ROX had, and so Peanut actually took it in hopes that they could try to find some sort of AoE engagement and delete members from the Jin Green Wings. Unfortunately for them, though, all they could pick up was Sohan.
I mean, they do at least keep their base intact for now. Save their inhibitor turret and inhibitor, so no double super creeps per lane. They do push Jin off of Baron at least once. Can they do it again?
Well, if Score was able to keep KT in a game very long yesterday, we'll see if Peanut can do it here today.
Having to avoid that parallel convergence. Baron down to half HP, trying to find kills, and they will. Teddy getting sniped out. He's dead, and now Sohan very low as well. Smeb looking for his revenge, gonna burninate him down, sniped out at the last second, and Peanut going for it. Now Equalizer guesses the wrong way, but no way out there for Sohan. He'll drop, and now this is the Tigers' chance to turn it around.
This might actually be the end. And I'm actually wondering if Kuzan could teleport into the main and then use Che and Wing to just deny recalls. I feel like that would actually be the play, but...
Oh, they're going for it! It's a double immediately for Kuzan! They'll crush the Tigers! It's a triple kill! Kuzan destroys them all! Can't Cry turn it around? There's super creeps on the Nexus. Will the Winions be the end of the game? And it looks like with a teleport into the ROX Tigers base, the inhibitor respawns to deny it! Oh my god! The game continues as now Kuzan will try to kill this off. Incredibly long death timers for the Tigers means this is most likely over.
Yeah, most likely over indeed, as that inhibitor does fall, and there is a giant pileup of the minions right there on the Nexus to aid in the destruction of it. And Jin Green Wings taking game number 2. And we're going to game number 3.
Oh man, coming down to the wire, and so much changing in game number 2. You can see a big smile there on Teddy's face, an incredible Varus performance, and on the other side, a relatively lackluster performance from guys like Peanut, who went a little bit too ham and got turned into bacon.
Yeah, and Peanut's performance on Lee Sin early on was fantastic, but then it just felt like he was making plays that were a little too cutesy and too stylish, and it ended up costing the Tigers their enormous advantage.
Plays much like Peanut is, so maybe taking